Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of ITHive's live Saturday tech show. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to just put them in the chat here. I can see that live, and I'll address anything, and we can work on things. So, just a little update. I'm doing this from our new location now, so hopefully everything's working out technology-wise. I haven't moved all my network equipment over yet, so I'm just using the existing infrastructure, but I've run some tests and it seems to be okay. Let me know in the comments if you can't hear me or if there's an issue, and I'll see about correcting that. So today, I want to talk about the role of technology in government, and there's much needed improvement here, and I'll underline a little bit of an analogy, and I'm sure a lot of us can recall. In the early 90s, I started my professional tech career working for the federal government of Canada, and I remember one thing quite clearly in particular. When I was going to school, I always thought and was taught that, technology would save resources and, make things efficient and all that stuff, right? And one thing that really shocked me when I started my career was a piece of technology called a printer, right? The whole thing was, we do everything electronically and we can save paper and save trees and all that. But in reality, we printed stuff like crazy, just printing. So, I don't know if technology is really saving trees, right? But that's not so much what I wanted to talk about today. It's kind of just underlines some issues, but I really wanted to talk about our use of systems, right? So a government needs to provide services for a population, right? And when we talk about computer systems, right, to support that delivery of service, very often the government is put in a position where they can't just buy a software package, to provide a particular service, right? So a lot of the times what happens is governments say, okay, well, we need something to help us manage this issue. And then they reach out to technology companies, software development companies, to deliver a program to help them deliver a service, right? And, I think this is where things fall apart, right? Because I've said this before on my show, but the technology is not it's only as smart as the human beings that have written it, and even that, it has its limitations, right? It's very good at making black and white decisions. If this happens, then do that. If this happens, then do that. If these things happen, then do these things, right? And that's great, right? But there's a couple of issues with this, okay? One, I think when governments reach out to develop programs to support what they need to deliver to society, the problem that happens a lot of the times is that they will not realize what they need to really do, right? And they don't really understand the process to develop these systems, right? So a lot of I have yet to see a big government program actually get developed and produced on time, right? So you got one side, the technology company is making all kinds of promises as to what will be delivered and the timelines that will be delivered and all that stuff. And a lot of this is done to just win the bid, right? And then on the other side, the government itself, their employees and stuff, maybe not always understand what has to happen to make these things work. And it's a very, very expensive endeavor, right? So what I wanted to throw out there was, I think we've kind of lost our way a little bit with government and technology. And I'll talk, on a specific case. Let's just look at, social services in Ontario, let's say, right? And just a little bit of a background. The Ontario government has a new social services application to help welfare recipients. And it was a program that was delivered well over budget. The system doesn't work right. There's issues and stuff like that. Now, that's not unusual, right? This happens. However, I think where a computer system fails its population, right, is when we rely too much on it. Where a government looks at, okay, well, we'll put in a computer system and then we won't need as many employees, right, to help deliver that system. But there's a huge difference between a technology system and people, right? Technology systems can't make good decisions about how to treat individual cases and how to provide a service that will actually help somebody, in the case of welfare, help them get off of welfare, right? And here's where the problem is. People are individuals. Everybody has individual needs and things that they need to help them get out of the position they're in so they can stop being a burden on society and be a tax-paying, productive member of society. But if you only manage this relationship with a computer system, right, and the rules and everything are all in the computer system, and you let the computer system make all those determinations about how this case should be handled for this individual, you're failing. Because what you really need to be doing is understanding the particular situation and the particular circumstances that an individual has, and then provide a custom solution to that person or family or whatever, so that they can eventually get to a position where they can be self-sufficient. And a computer system doesn't do that, right? So, the reason I wanted to talk about this, I got thinking about this the other day, and, if you just look at the case of welfare, right, and you take a little bit of a different approach. I'm not saying that government shouldn't use computer systems. I'm saying, yeah, we should use computer systems, right? There is appropriate use of that. But the thing that where things fall down is when we stop dealing with human beings and dealing with individuals, right? So if a government, instead of looked at computer systems to allow them to have less employees, I think that's a crazy notion, right? We need a computer system in place, but we need boots on the ground, employees, to actually act as human beings and act as representative for clients, welfare recipients, and help these people on an individual basis, right? And sure, you can have a system in the background to manage that, but it needs to be a little more flexible. Computers are not flexible, right? They're not flexible. They don't have emotion. They don't have understanding. They can't deal with situations that are not normal, right? So those people that don't follow the given trend of what everyone else is doing get left in the cold, and they don't get the right support that they need, right? And that's where the failure happens, right? Obviously in my position, I'm a big proponent of technology for sure, but the appropriate use of technology. So I guess in summary, what I'm saying is, yeah, sure, invest in computer systems, take some of the rigidity rules out and let boots on the ground actually provide the service to the citizens of a particular country, right? And you can still have efficiencies and whatnot. It's just a matter of measuring the success of the interaction between the government providing the service and the citizen receiving the service, right? Measure that success, right? And use the system to provide the service, right? So that's really the crust of what I wanted to talk about. So, it's because it's so expensive to develop a computer system. You really want to make it as straightforward as possible. And I see a lot of government systems that are built and done, and the complexities are so large that they have errors and problems. Here in Canada, I can look at the federal government. They revamped their payroll system, and it's been rolled it out in I think around January 2017. Well, I don't know exact numbers off the top of my head, but a good number of federal employees in Canada are not being paid properly. And it's a huge issue, right? 20 years ago, I was part of a development team and worked internally inside the federal government to rebuild the pay system or add a nice front end on it. So it worked, and we were largely successful, but for some reason it was scrapped then. But again, I go back to the complexity issues, right? We can get, I think, technology allows us to do some really good things, but it also allows us to create really, really complicated decision-making process. And there's a relative situation here. The more complex a computer system is, the chances are the more bugs and problems it's going to have, right? And why do we want to do that, right? There's a role for us humans in the process, right? So I think, what I'm saying here is we need a mix, right? And we need a mix of boots on the ground and a mix of technology supporting the boots on the ground. And that's where governments need to go. Going all the way and thinking that, if we build a computer system, right, we won't need government employees to do this, or we can get rid of, 50% of our workforce, right? Well, I think that's a very short-sighted view. Especially if you look at we were talking about welfare before, but so a government, right? A government would want most of its citizens working, right? Because a working citizen is paying taxes. Well, why would a government want to implement a system, pay billions of dollars to a technology company to develop a system, and then lay off a number of people, right? Seems kind of crazy, right? Wouldn't you think? People, a government should be a strong employer, right? And, I know lots of other people would have different points of views and stuff, but, the thing is that I think for society, a healthy country and stuff, the more people you have working, the better. So why would a government try and, lower that? And yes, sure, there's cost to government to have employees and stuff, but what does it cost the government to have unemployed people, right? What are the costs, right? You have homelessness, you have drug addiction, you have all kinds of things that happen, crime, right? People get their backs against the wall and they have no other choice, like what, so all those things, right? I think the government should be in a leading role to provide a service that is able to deliver to individuals, not just to a rigid system that somebody thought up and then leaves a whole bunch of people out of the process. So anyway, I'm trying to always keep these things short, right? It's we're just over 15 minutes. And so if anybody has any questions, ask away. Feeling that, I think that if you're watching this in non-live mode later on, you can always post questions and I will entertain answers. Yeah. And so that was episode 9. We don't want to take up too much of your time. I hope everybody enjoyed the coffee and listening to me. Not quite a conversation, but we'll get there one day. And we'll see you next Saturday, or during the week, or whatever. And if you're in Ontario, and particularly in the Ottawa area, hold on. It's going to be a nasty day weather-wise, and we're moving stuff still. Yay! So that's what I have to do the rest of my day. So anyway, I am signing out. That was episode 9. Have a good week and weekend, and we'll see you next Saturday. All right. Have a good time. See y'all.